What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Alphaville. And we're returning to Prostitute 1994, and we're going to do a double. I received a suggestion that the next two tracks would be good to go together, I think because at least one of them is shorter. In any case, they're called Oh Patti and then Ivory Tower. So Ivory Tower I'll tackle first. This is a phrase used in relation to elite academic circles, in some cases divorced from practical concerns of everyday people, meaning highfalutin intellectual or even metaphysical concepts that perhaps are intriguing to active minds and capable scholars, but which bear little connection to or interest for everyday folk who have to work a day and get along down on the ground, so to speak. So it's often contrasted with people and lives that are more blue collar, to use economic category terms. And in that regard, if one is cloistered in an ivory tower, you might be privy to knowledge that is, again, very advanced and elite, but you might also be accused of being disconnected from your fellow man, studying things that don't have a lot of practical value, or indeed that can help many people, even if, again, on an intellectual level, they may be compelling and interesting and worthy of pursuit. So yeah, I do wonder if the person addressing other people is from the ivory tower, whether someone being addressed is from the ivory tower, whether the ivory tower is actually portrayed or represented in the style or meaning or with the meaning of the idiom. I wonder whether there is no real character in the story, but it is about the concept itself. I wouldn't be surprised if it's embedded within a narrative that features people interacting. But yes, that's the way that I've understood the term, and ultimately I wouldn't be surprised if, again, it references some concept about elite knowledge as it is contrasted with the concerns of people who aren't up in that tower. Now, Oh Patti, it's a name. Ultimately, to say oh before someone's name is to, I suppose, raise a few different possibilities. If someone's being ridiculous or silly, you might say, like, oh, Patti, like, what are you doing? You might say it when someone is acting or speaking in a naive manner, like, oh, Patti, like, I wish that were true, but don't you know what's really going on here? So I feel like there is some suggestion, at least in one interpretation, that the other person, the Patti being addressed, is speaking or acting in a way that doesn't conform to the perceptions of the speaker. Now, you can say, oh, Patti, in a more, let's say, passionate or exuberant or exaltative way, and in that situation it might be more about an intimate connection or an emotional connection. So it's harder to get a read on the first title, but I do wonder, in the context of the way a phrase like that would often be used, if it's running in one direction versus another. I suppose I'll find out, or at least I'll try to. This is Alphaville, and the songs we're about to hear are Oh Patti, followed by Ivory Tower.
Patti can take it, she gotta give it back. The world is a big place, and she's frightened.
Okay.
And if you kiss her, she gotta kiss you back. She couldn't stand a kiss for free on her own. And while she's playing with all she exchanged, yawning at the multitude, the world is a big place, full of toys and boys and teddy bears. Well, nothing is for free, that's what her mother told her once. And Patti has a big, big heart, bigger than her life. She just forgot the most fantastic thing within. She's sitting in her glass house, but she does not dare to throw the stones to she'll take you off for free. All alone, all alone.
This is Ivory Tower.
Here is the news from my little hideaway. My sweet Ivory Tower sent you songs about so many things. Mighty moon dogs skipping waves, dolphins playing their lives away, golden circus girls and pharaohs, fallen angels, street-side Romeos, Patricia Spark and Andy Way, eternal youth and never-ending summer days, lonely girls, music halls, the mysteries of love. The event that I don't return, please take this message to understand. And the event, I am a stranger in a strange land. Welcome, stranger, to the land of the free. Welcome, Carol, to fantasy. So alone, a million light years far from home. It seems to be a tragedy. How can I live in Germany? Another house is burning down. It's time to face the cruel reality. This is a game of all disasters in the 20th century. The event that I'll return, please take this message to understand. In the event that I don't return, please take this message to understand. In the event that I don't return, please take this message to understand. In the event that I don't return, in the event that I don't
This is Radio Freedom. This is Radio Freedom.
In our program this evening, we would like to play you music by a West German group called Alphaville. Listen to them as they play their music.
I do, and I will continue to do so. So yeah, oh Patti, let's start with that. Obviously a very, ambient or sparsely arranged track, but very beautiful, and Gold's vocals felt very, smooth and soft and seemingly, addressing the emotions of Patti, who, it does sound like there is a bit of the naivety angle, the idea that the world's a scary place and, she has this big heart, but maybe that big heart, which is bigger than her life apparently, maybe that'll lead her to act emotionally, and she might, kiss someone back if they kiss her, or they might, she might fall in love if someone expresses love to her. So it does seem like there's a suggestion that, her big heart and her, timidness vis-a-vis the world might lead her to get into trouble. She's a bit naive, oh, Patti, it's really sympathetic that you have that heart, but you have to be careful, and, the world, it is a frightening place. So maybe I'm wrong about that, but it feels like there was a bit of the naive angle, but it also feels like she has this big passion or desire to find a connection or indeed to find love. And so maybe the person is saying the phrase sympathetically and oh, Patti, that's so admirable of you, I wish I had that emotional core to my being. So I'm not quite sure the essence of the title phrase still, but it does seem to refer to someone who is not been dulled by or made cold and indifferent by the world. Someone who wants to live through their emotion, even if, everything's still a bit big and intimidating. So it sounds like someone who is young in the larger context. Ivory Tower I'm curious about, because at first I thought it was this idea, which again, it's this place where there's this esoteric knowledge that may or may not bear upon most people's lives, but then it sounded like it was this, cloister of girls who are going there, and again, maybe they're disconnected from what other people are going through, but it didn't seem quite so critical or denigrating in terms of the use of the phrase itself. But then suddenly it sounds like we're talking about someone who's coming to America, which, you can put land of the free in scare quotes, but it did seem like he was talking about maybe coming to New York specifically, or at least the US more generally, and at the end talk about like having to leave Germany, or maybe not wanting to leave Germany. So it felt like suddenly, like, it feels way more specific and geographically particular, and maybe autobiographical, especially with that end, like, seemingly, like, recorded bit from a radio broadcast. Like, here's this group from West Germany, Alphaville, which, again, them starting before the Cold War was officially over, and while East Germany was still around, and then the idea of maybe going beyond your horizons and maybe trying to, get to this ivory tower as a desirable destination where maybe you can learn the real highfalutin knowledge, whether that's, musical or otherwise. It suddenly felt like maybe it's more of a historical and perhaps autobiographical story. Either way, Marion's vocals in Ivory Tower were incredible, just really letting it fly, and it's rich and expressive. When he goes big in his vocal delivery, I think it's incredibly impressive, and this was another great example of that. So be curious to hear what people have to say about the lyrics and the themes, but I enjoyed the energy. Like, there was this synth that was very rapid fire, sort of fishing back and forth. There was obviously an increased tempo percussion structure relative to Oh Patti, and a very, dramatic sweep to the tune sonically. So yeah, it feels like the track was given some import by the sonic configuration, even without fully understanding what's happening narratively. So yeah, a cool pair of tunes. Very much enjoy those, especially Ivory Tower. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.